Expanding Canada's oil and gas infrastructure.
Thanks in no small part to Donald Trump's on-again, off-again.
Global oil prices have been super volatile in the last.
Is there enough energy to power data center growth quickly?
All of that, of course, driven by the idea that if there could be a...
In 2025, the global energy landscape was reshaped and at full throttle. Canada and Qatar have just redirected enormous volumes of natural gas, pulling them away from the United States and redirecting them toward Europe, triggering an economic chain reaction. With trade tariffs on the rise and global alliances shifting gears, America's dominance in the energy sector is losing traction. Meanwhile, Europe is in a race against time to replace its reliance on Russian gas. And two unlikely contenders are pulling ahead. Let's dive into the driving forces behind this major shakeup and the engine revving up a completely new energy world order. It all kicked off when President Trump introduced his 2025 trade tariff initiative, slapping a 10% duty on Canadian natural gas. The goal? Push for better trade conditions and reclaim leverage. But instead of compliance, it sparked a sharp pivot from America's northern ally. For decades, Canada had been a steady partner in America's energy game. But now that collaboration has stalled and veered off course entirely. Prime Minister Mark Carney delivered a clear message. The post-World War II economic harmony with the U.S. was officially over. In its place, a bold pivot toward Europe and Asia, where demand is strong and politics are less volatile. Enter LNG Canada, an enormous export terminal in British Columbia that had quietly been in the works for years. Now, it's taken center stage as the crown jewel in Canada's export strategy. With operations launching mid-2025, the terminal is set to ship millions of tons of liquefied natural gas across both the Atlantic and Pacific. What makes this shift so impactful? The infrastructure. From pipelines to shipping ports, Canada's energy arteries are being rerouted, away from the United States. What once symbolized cross-border unity now signals energy independence. Ironically, Trump's protective tariffs shattered the very partnership they were supposed to defend. But Canada isn't the only one shaking up the global gas playbook. Qatar is stepping on the gas just as hard. While Canada was redrawing its blueprint, Qatar was fine-tuning and accelerating its own. Already a titan in the liquefied natural gas space, Qatar is on track to nearly double its output, from 77 million metric tons in 2024 to a projected 142 million by 2030. This isn't just an upgrade, it's a power move. Europe, desperate to end its reliance on Russian supply, found in Qatar a consistent and competitive alternative. Countries like Germany have locked in long-term LNG deals, betting on Qatar's reliability and favorable pricing to bring stability to their energy grids and manufacturing sectors. Still, the road ahead isn't entirely smooth. European lawmakers are moving forward with strict environmental regulations under the Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive, and Qatari officials haven't been shy in expressing their concern, warning that over-regulation could strain future partnerships. But for now, the tankers are loaded. The ships are sailing, and Qatar has a firm grip on Europe's energy wheel. Zooming out, Qatar's rise in the European gas supply game isn't just a commercial win, it's a geopolitical statement. By becoming Europe's essential fuel stop, Qatar is redrawing its own role on the global diplomatic map, one shipment at a time. Now, with Qatar fueling Europe's tank, let's steer back to the US, where the dashboard is lighting up and the engine is sputtering. As Canada and Qatar floored it, the US found itself stuck in the slow lane. Losing Canadian imports, once a cornerstone of American gas supply, has squeezed domestic availability just as demand hits a peak. And you can feel the pressure at the pump and in your wallet. Gas prices have surged near $5 per gallon, sparking inflation fears and eating into household budgets. Job losses are mounting in the energy sector, especially in processing hubs and port cities that once thrived on the Canada-US flow. In Washington, the response has been to boost US LNG exports to Europe. But that's easier said than done. Shipping lanes are packed, export terminals are near capacity, and Europe already has other suitors, chiefly Qatar, with cheaper, more reliable logistics. Here's the kicker. This bottleneck is a direct result of short-sighted trade policies. What was intended to project strength has instead exposed vulnerability. And while America scrambles to recalibrate its global energy role, the rest of the world is already miles ahead. Europe is shifting gears, focusing on long-term resilience, even if that means taking sharp turns. The math has changed. When Russian gas flows through Ukraine were suddenly cut off in early 2025, Europe went into overdrive to find trustworthy substitutes. And that's where Canada and Qatar come in. Now the powerhouses fueling Europe's search for long-term energy security. Multi-decade LNG deals with both nations have become the new engine driving European stability. But the journey's not without turbulence. Environmental policies, internal EU disagreements, and pricing volatility are complicating the road ahead. Some EU members want to keep the Russian tap open a little longer to avoid price spikes. Others want it shut off entirely before 2027. That friction exposes a truth every gearhead knows. You can't get peak performance unless all parts are working in sync. In the end, Europe's success will hinge on its ability to coordinate strategy and maintain partnerships that are both profitable and sustainable. And while Europe tunes its engine, Canada and Qatar are already laying fresh pavement. This isn't just a tale of supply chains. It's a full blueprint for a new world energy order. Canada and Qatar are no longer riding in the sidecar of U.S. dominance. They're behind the wheel, using LNG contracts as the steering mechanism to reshape global influence. Both nations are locking in decades-long agreements, positioning themselves as central hubs in the future of global fuel. In Canada, provinces like British Columbia and Newfoundland are shifting into high gear. LNG terminals, seaports, and fresh energy corridors are creating jobs, attracting billions in investment, and redefining Canada's image as a world power. Ottawa's not just exporting fuel, it's exporting diplomacy, forging closer ties with France and the UK through shared energy goals. Qatar, on the other hand, is building something even grander. Its LNG exports aren't just heating homes, they're expanding its sway from Italy to Germany to Japan. Qatar is bundling energy with infrastructure, logistics, and trade routes. Its energy policy turned into grand strategy. Together, these two nations are paving a new superhighway across the global market, one that bypasses American toll booths entirely. And as they lay down this transatlantic and trans-Pacific energy freeway, the U.S. risks being stuck on the shoulder. Canada and Qatar's decision to reroute their energy exports hasn't just rattled fuel markets. It's redrawn the blueprint of geopolitical power in Europe. These new alliances offer both countries a buffer against global instability. It's a strategic leap forward, where energy is no longer just a commodity, but a tool of influence. And for the U.S., it's a harsh reminder that global leadership takes more than muscle. It takes adaptability, foresight, and collaboration. The tariffs-first approach boomeranged, leaving Washington responding to moves it used to command. Now America faces a critical choice: double down on isolation, or shift into a new era of global agility and shared strategy. In recent weeks, several European countries have begun exploring joint infrastructure projects with both Canada and Qatar, including floating LNG terminals and cross-border storage systems. Germany and the Netherlands are leading the charge, aiming to secure redundancy in supply routes before the 2025 to 2026 winter season. At the same time, France has started renegotiating old nuclear agreements to complement LNG flows with domestic energy generation, suggesting a broader push for autonomy, even if it means higher short-term costs. Meanwhile, in Washington, pressure is mounting on the Biden administration to respond decisively. Industry leaders from Texas and Louisiana have demanded fast-tracked approvals for new LNG terminals. But environmental groups are pushing back, citing ecological concerns and legal bottlenecks. The tension has exposed deep fractures in America's energy policymaking. One side calling for dominance through export, the other warning of overreach and climate fallout. To complicate matters further, a recent diplomatic summit in Brussels revealed internal EU divisions over LNG strategy. While Poland and the Baltic states demand total independence from Russian gas by 2026, Hungary and Austria have resisted, arguing that a rapid decoupling could trigger economic shockwaves. The European Commission now faces the challenge of mediating these interests while avoiding a credibility crisis in its green transition goals. Back in the Middle East, Qatar is capitalizing on this uncertainty. The country has just finalized a new tranche of 27-year supply deals, not just with European countries, but with Japan, South Korea, and even India. This global diversification ensures that, even if EU regulation complicates future terms, Doha will have alternative markets already locked in. And Canada? It's not slowing down either. LNG Canada's Phase 1 is nearly operational, and Phase 2 has received preliminary investment commitments. Newfoundland is also ramping up offshore exploration, hoping to ride the momentum of global demand before the next regulatory tightening cycle. If this energy realignment continues at its current pace, 2025 may well go down in history not just as a year of disruption, but as the moment when a multipolar energy order finally emerged. One where control is no longer centralized in Washington, Moscow, or Riyadh, but shared among agile, adaptable players who can strike fast, negotiate hard, and deliver reliably across borders. What comes next is not just a race for energy, but for relevance. So tell us, what's your take? Did Canada and Qatar make the right move, cutting the US out? Will Europe's reliance on external gas partners make it safer or more fragile? And can the US reclaim its energy influence, or has that ship already sailed? If you found this analysis valuable, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a key update. Leave a like to support the channel, and let us know your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next episode.